All right, hello everyone. I'm Brandon Mackie. I'm co-founder and COO of Pickleheads, and I know we have lunch coming up, so I promise I won't make this too long. But appreciate the opportunity, Carl. Thank you for having me. So, if you're not familiar with Pickleheads, we're a platform that helps rec players find each other, find games, and run better events. We started as the #1 court finder. A lot of people know us as the court finder. But as the rec game has evolved, so have we. And now, today, we help thousands of clubs run round robins, collect payments, run mini tournaments, and do a whole lot more than just finding a court. And next month, we're making it official. We're going to be launching Pickleheads OS, which is an operating system built for players, organizers, and communities all over the country to power better events. So we're a whole lot more than a court finder. But first, I just want to start, and if you go to the next slide, if you don't mind. Long before I was a founder, I was a player, like everybody else out here. And my story started in Phoenix, shortly thereafter COVID. Beautiful November day, and out at my local courts, absolutely packed, waiting 30, 40 minutes for a game, and I would lose 11-0. Anyone had that experience happen before? By somebody twice my age, typically. And I might get 1 game, 2 games in before work, and then I was off. But I stuck with it. I learned if I got to the courts earlier, 7 a.m., 6 a.m., 5 a.m., I could get a lot more games in, and then the opposite happened. I started beating everybody at my local park. But I learned that, losing 11-0 and winning 11-0 are, not that much more fun. I mean, it's a little more fun to win. But I found myself stuck as a 3-8 player and didn't really know where to go next. And that insight really taught me that there could be a better path for rec players. And it's a lot of the insights that has brought Pickleheads to life. And it's what I want to talk about today, is the future of rec play. Because the pro scene is fun to watch, but as most of you probably know, 99% of pickleball really happens at the rec level. That's where all the activity is, and we're uniquely positioned to serve those players. And I would argue that we're past the boom. 2021, 2022, it was crazy. Everyone was coming to the sport. It was all over the news. Paddles were flying off the shelves. And I think where we're at now is we're in transition. And the rec game is starting to grow up. Players are showing up with duper ratings. They're starting to play in leagues and ladders. And they're really demanding a lot more out of the sport than what they did originally. And so I would argue that the pickleball industry is lagging behind where the game is going, and I want to share some ideas today on how we can get caught up. So first, probably go to the next slide if you wouldn't mind. So show of hands, how many people started playing in open play when they first started playing pickleball? How many people are still playing in open play? Okay, not bad. And if I was given this talk a year ago, I would probably say something around, is open play dead? Something dramatic. But I think, a lot of people are starting to feel that things have shifted away from open play. You had the franchise operators here talking a lot about programming and leagues. And, open play really is the magic of the sport. And I think 3 years ago, it worked great because everyone was basically the same level. You showed up, you played, and it just sort of worked, and you mixed and matched, and there was a really great magic to it. But now, you've got players all over the place. You've got 2-5s, you've got 4-5s out on the public park, you've got people that don't want to play against each other, and it really has made it a lot more challenging. And so, I think even the 3-5s and the 4-0s are starting to feel like open play is not necessarily serving them. So what's the solution? And I hear this time and time again, that programming is the solution. It's where the sport is going, it's what people will pay for, and it's kind of the next frontier for recreational pickleball. Well, I want to say something a little uncomfortable. A lot of the programming I see out there is just being done wrong. And I see a lot of clubs doing it and charging big money for it, and being out advertising, but not necessarily doing it very well. And so A lot of what I see out there, I wouldn't even call programming. It's more scheduling. It's, hey, we're doing a 3.5 open play, come on down. But that doesn't really guarantee anything if you're not actually enforcing the standards. So what I see is it's very easy for folks to set up a few events, create a schedule, go to sleep at night saying we've done programming and our players are going to come back time and time again. You know, you run around robin, you do your leveled open play. And I see a lot of clubs that equal structure with success. But the players are telling us at Picklehead's a very different story. We see them churning out of these events, leaving the clubs, going to organize their own groups, going back to group threads. And I've started to think of this idea of check-the-box programming, where you just kind of slap things up there. And I think it's one of the biggest reasons that rec players are starting to slip through the cracks. And it's one of the biggest things we're trying to solve at Pickleheads. Yeah, I could go maybe 2 more slides. So I think what it means today is, players don't just want court access, they want match quality. They don't just want social games, they want structure. And players aren't going to settle for a random experience anymore. So I think if you're a club, a program, a facility manager, this is kind of a moment of truth. Because players are getting smarter, they see the dollar signs going up and what they're being asked to pay to play pickleball. And I think if your programming doesn't evolve, you're going to lose them. So that's the real friction that I see, and I break it down into 2 categories. Maybe one more slide. Okay, here we go. I think we're caught up now. So there's 2 big challenges that I see that cause programming to go wrong. Number 1 is skill mismatches. So when players show up expecting a certain level of competition and they don't get it, they'll just stop trusting your programming. And what I've seen is it only takes one time that somebody thinks they're going to a 4-0 open play and there's beginners there and they never come back. It's really that simple. And the second thing I see go wrong are fragile formats. Formats that require exactly 16 people to come and four people on every court. But the reality is rec play's messy. Somebody's stuck in traffic, they get injured, they show up late, and the format has to flex because if it doesn't, the whole thing falls apart. So I want to go through each of these. And the first one, I'm based in Phoenix. When the first private facility that opened in Phoenix, I was really excited. I was like, great, finally a way out of open play at public parks. I went there, 16 courts, it was all open play, and it was set up by level, and I was like, this is great. But then I go on the courts and I find out that nobody's adhering to it. You go on the 3-5 court and there's 3 O's playing there. You go on the 4-5 court and there's 4 O's playing there. And I think it's a big challenge because it's an incentive issue for clubs. People overestimate their skill levels, and nobody wants to turn them away. They're your customers after all. So it gets messy, but at the same time it's compromising the experience for others. And the experience isn't unique. The number 1 complaint I hear over and over from players in our community is, I signed up for a 4-0 event and there were beginners there, and I never went back. And I think that's a real shame. Because on the other side, it's all those players that sat in traffic, planned their whole day around that event, got really excited about it. It really comes down to giving them a good experience. If they don't have a good experience, that's not fair to them either. So. And then on the second challenge, I see so many events that require everything to go right. There's no margin for error. And I've been called so many times at 5:30 in the morning from someone in a complete state of panic because one person didn't show up for the round robin. The whole thing was going to fall apart if I didn't get out of bed and go and play. And of course, I always went and go play. But I see it time and time again. I was in a league recently at a well-known franchise in my local area, and it was really well run. It was duplicated, high-level players, but every week somebody wouldn't show up, and the solution was to just go into the open play and recruit somebody random to come play in the league. And again, I just think rec players are going to demand something better. So that's the real lesson. It's not about building perfect events. That's not really possible, but it really is about building formats that can flex and can adapt to what actually happens. And can deliver consistent quality matchups even when real life gets in the way. So I think there's 2 big questions to ask if you're doing programming and running things are you enforcing skill levels in a way that players will come to trust? And are your formats built for the messy real world of rec play? Those are the two key questions to ask, and those are things we spend all our time at Pickleheads thinking about. Because when the answers are yes, what we've seen is that everything gets easier. Player retention, referrals, revenue to the club or your group, it all falls in place if you can solve those two things. All right, so what does better look like? Okay, great. Let's zoom out for a minute. So if rec players are evolving, I think our programming needs to evolve as well. And we're very fortunate at Pickleheads. We don't work just with clubs. We work with organizers of all shapes and sizes, from somebody that's doing open plays at their local church, the HOA courts, public parks, on cruise ships, anywhere and everywhere. So we've gotten a lot of insight from people about what works, and there's universal concepts that expand far beyond the private clubs, which get a lot of attention. So I would say the number one is your programming must account for skill level, and you must enforce it. That's the important part. And I think it's a non-negotiable, because anyone that's going into, self-reported skill, we like to say is the reason most players churn, because time and time again, and I'm guilty of it too, we overestimate our own ability. And so, if you run a 4-0 round robin and people don't get matched properly, I think you're going to lose business. And it doesn't mean you need to run tournaments, but I do think you need to have some objective way of measuring players. And you can use Duper. Duper works well, but that's not the only solution. Internal club results, organizer rankings, just something that it doesn't rely on guesswork or people's self-reported skills. The best facilities that I see are ones that are creating feedback loops, where play leads to ratings, and then those ratings deliver better matches, and then those matches get you more and more play, and over time it gets more and more accurate, and that's when the real magic happens, where players show up and they know exactly what they're getting. Okay, so yeah, perfect. Number 2, programming needs to meet players where they are in the journey. So the 3-0 that's looking to improve needs something totally different than a 4-5 who's looking for highly competitive games. And so the clubs that we see doing this well think about it in the pathway, the journey of the player. So it might be a social mixer for new players. It could be clinics for people that want to improve. It could be structured ladders for people that are in the 3-5 range. And it could be rating-based play for those advanced players. So not taking the same format and applying it to every single person where they are in the journey, but really thinking about the different needs. And not every event needs to be hyper-competitive, but I would argue it needs to have an intention. And so that way players, they know exactly what they're come to expect. Number 3, programming needs to flex with real-world conditions. And this is so important. I've really learned it the last week running all the programming here at the convention. Every day I'm getting messages from people that their flight got delayed, or they can't make it anymore, or they don't want to play with this partner. And that's just life. And I've seen it so many times with no-shows, late arrivals, odd numbers. Most formats that I've seen over the last couple of years, they'll just simply fall apart. And I told you I've been called many times at 5:30 in the morning, and I think the future belongs to the flexible formats. The ones that can adjust round by round, that can dynamically deal with people not showing up, and they don't break. Because when you solve for that, you can unlock a lot more court hours. You can run things at 6 a.m., you don't have to worry about people showing up late, and you can really let your organizers run lean and not worry about all the overhead of trying to make things work perfectly. All right. Yes. Okay. Number 4, I think we can all be honest here that the ratings in pickleball have a perception problem. And there's been a lot of hot topic debate about it. But at the end of the day, players want a rating, but a lot of them don't know how to get one. They assume it's for pros or tournament players, and so they just stay outside the system. And I would argue the programming suffers because of it. And so if we want rating-based play to succeed, we have to bring the rec players in. We have to make it simple, play a few games, get your score right, and build from there. And that's how you actually expand your player base, and that's how you build your events with players that actually belong in them. All right. So I just want to take a minute here and talk about Pickleheads and how we're approaching this problem. and how we're trying to bring this vision to life. And like I said, we've been really lucky to get to work with thousands of organizers across lots of countries, languages, facility types, groups from 4 people up to groups with 4,000 people. I'll share an example. We're downstairs right now using our round robin tool. And we designed it specifically to address the 2 problems that I talked about. And so you guys are all probably familiar with the round robin, the big printable spread or draw where you're going to play with 7 rounds, and it's all generated from the start. The way that we built it is it builds round by round. And the beauty is it doesn't matter if somebody doesn't show up, you can just uncheck them. And then for the second round, if they arrive, well, you check them in, and then they can start playing. Somebody who wants to only play 3 rounds and leave, no problem. Our formats, they seed by duper and skill level rating, so people start on the right courts, and that's the format that we did this morning. And then most importantly, the matchups adapt round by round, so depending on how you're playing, your court assignments are gonna change. And I think that's something you can only do if you're using technology. It'd be really hard to do that with pen and paper. And like I said, it handles all the issues. Somebody getting injured, somebody's, the heat's really high and doesn't want to play in the next round. And the result of all this is when players come off the court, they say, wow, that was really fun. Every game that I had was competitive and fun. And that makes me really happy. We got a lot of positive feedback yesterday. And I think the big takeaway is, if you can take those formats and use them in your clubs and your programming, that's how you can start to create great events in off-peak hours. You can run a mini tournament Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. Events that feel as polished as tournaments, but can be done anytime, anywhere. And that's what we've really tried to build. Then there's, okay, next slide, I think. So then we've rolled out this new feature recently called Rate My Game, where anybody can submit 3 minutes of them playing a doubles game, and they'll get a verified duper rating from a coach. And that's great for people that are worried about going into an intense environment and having to play live gameplay under a lot of pressure and stress, and they can do it virtually. And that gives people that kind of passport to get into rating-based play, which we think is really key, especially the formats that we have, to make work. So it's a small change that can make a big difference, because once you have a rating, now you have a baseline, and now you're motivated to really start to play more and enjoy some of the competitive aspects of it. So I've seen it time and time again, and actually when we first launched our round robin tool, it was in Scottsdale last September, and I was in charge of getting players to sign up. And so Ruth was there, you remember that. So I started reaching out to some local players, and all of a sudden the player list was growing, and the ratings were 4-5, 5-0, 5-5. And my co-founder got mad at me. He said, how are we going to do this? Like, these players are way too good to play in. And it's true. Under a traditional round robin, it would have been a disaster, having a 5-5 playing against a 3-0. But we trusted our platform that seeded everybody, and based on results, put people where they needed to go. And it was a really fun event. And that was really some of the initial insight that said, okay, if it can work this way in a small court in Scottsdale, Arizona, it can work anywhere. And that's what we've been trying to do this weekend. And the stories that we're having from players, confirm that it really is, we think, a better way to do rec play. All right, so I want to close here with, one more story. I was live in Phoenix, like I said, and I was at a Play with the Pros event from a local paddle company called Proton. Maybe you guys have seen some of their paddles. Fun to play with. And I was wearing my Picklehead shirt like I always do out in the wild. And a guy grabbed me on the side and he said, hey, thank you so much for making Pickleheads. Like, my group uses it all the time. It's great. And I said, oh, wow, that's amazing. And I sat next to him and I started talking some more. And he said he would invite me into his group, to come out and play in some Pickleheads round robins that they were doing. And what I saw amazed me. This group was running Pickleheads round robins every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 a.m. They all had duper ratings, and there were 28 people that signed up consistently every week, 7 courts, and they had worked with a local club to reserve the courts 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., very cheap, off-peak hours. And it was amazing. The level of play was great. The format was great. Well, I'm obviously biased to say that, but it worked really well. Everything was submitted to Duper, so it was fun, but it was still competitive. And it hit me that this group had no affiliation with the facility. And if facilities don't take charge and create really great programming, then players are going to do it themselves. And I think that's really awesome. I think that's an interesting angle of competition that every facility owner needs to think about. And with Pickleheads, we're proud to offer technology for both. The facility can use it, the local organizer can use it, even a player can use it. And I think that's going to be a great thing for rec players, that regardless of whether it's the facility or just someone in your local group, the level of play and the opportunities that we're going to have as rec players are only going to get better. And that's what we're trying to do here at Pickleheads. So that's the opportunity here. I would argue pickleball doesn't only need more courts. Yes, it does. But what it really needs is better systems, better formats, and above all, better experiences. And I see players, they're spending more money than ever on paddles, drop-in fees, leagues. But if the gameplay doesn't feel worth it, I think they're going to be out. And we as an industry can't ask our players to spend like pros and and deliver an amateur product. So this talk isn't meant to criticize anyone, but it's meant to do quite the opposite. I think clubs are in a powerful position to lead this next era of pickleball if we invest in the right systems. And so really what that means, in summary, is investing in flexible formats, adopting tools that make programming easier, and creating experiences that make players say, that was the best night of pickleball I've had in months, because that's what it's all about. So I believe that the next chapter of pickleball will not be defined by a championship. It'll be defined by how good your Tuesday night game was, and I really believe that. And rec play is the backbone of our sport, and I'm really proud to be part of leading it forward. So thanks for your time, and love to take any questions.
Yeah, good job, Brandon. And then they're doing a great job downstairs too. You'll be able to check that out in a few minutes. But any questions for Brandon before we break? Run back there.
Hey, Brandon, I played yesterday in a tournament. I had a question on the new OS. Is that going to incorporate where you can use your computer to check in and stuff like that and get results as compared to just going 100% in the mobile app? I mean, because from people like at my age, I'm 65, I don't use my phone I keep my phone separate from my computer life. So, I mean, I hope this is a good question, but, that made it difficult for me yesterday, and I'm an IT guy, so I don't like phone apps to begin with. They're very insecure. So that's my question. It's not to criticize either, just like what you said. It's an honest question to where you're going in the future. Are you going 100% mobile, or is it going to be cross-platform?
Yeah, great question. And I would say we're definitely heading towards cross-platform. That's what we want to do. And as you appreciate, it takes a long time to build technology, so it is only in the mobile app, the round robin tool that you're describing, but we do have a lot of stuff that works on web, and our vision is no matter where you are, it all works the same. Your phone, your tablet, web, desktop, it'll all work the same. So there are some features that are mobile app only, but I would say, the next few months we'll have things that are going to work on your computer.
Thanks.
And by the way, you should be able to access that from your computer and click email me the results. Yeah. Come to the desk. I'll show you how to get results. Okay. We'll get you your results.
Brandon, great presentation. Is your new OS system going to be subscription-based? Is it a free program? Tell us about that.
Yeah, great question. So there will always be most of the stuff for free. There'll always be a free version of it. There will be certain features with the OS that are subscription-based. We have to make money as a company one way or another. But we're planning to offer a lot of different models. So if you're going to have players register on the app, they'll pay a small fee, similar when you're buying a movie ticket and there's a convenience fee. And if you do it that way, it'll be totally free for you. You'll be able to use everything for free. If you want to collect signups somewhere else and not process payments on Pickleheads, then there'll be a small monthly subscription for certain features like leagues and tournaments. But our most popular round robin formats we plan to keep free because they're awesome, and we hope that people all over the country continue to use them and enjoy them.